What happens when one of the biggest stars in entertainment sits down for what should be a routine interview, only to face the most hostile interrogation of her career? What unfolds when years of built-up resentment erupt into an on-air confrontation so intense that security has to get involved? Today, we're diving into the shocking moment. Jennifer Lopez walked onto the View set, expecting to promote her latest project, but instead walked straight into an ambush that left viewers stunned and the entertainment world buzzing for weeks. The morning began, like any other at the studios in New York. Jennifer arrived in her signature style, draped in a cream-colored blazer worth more than most people make in a month. Her hair was pulled back in that effortlessly perfect way only she could pull off. Production assistants swarmed around her, offering water, adjusting her microphone, making sure everything was flawless for what everyone assumed would be another light-hearted promotional interview. At the table, Joy Behar shuffled her notes with a mischievous smile that suggested she had something planned. Whoopi Goldberg reviewed her opening remarks, occasionally glancing at Joy as if she sensed what was coming. Sarah Haynes chatted warmly with the crew. Sunny Hostin organized her points with lawyer-like precision, and Alyssa Farah Griffin looked slightly nervous, as she often did when major celebrities were on the show. The program opened with the usual fanfare. The audience applauded as Whoopi introduced their guest. Jennifer walked out with her million-dollar smile, waving to the crowd, completely unaware she was stepping into one of the most explosive moments daytime TV had seen in years. She took her seat next to Whoopi, legs crossed elegantly, expecting 20 minutes of pleasant conversation about her music, her businesses, maybe a touch about her personal life. "Jennifer, welcome back to The View," Whoopi said warmly. Jennifer returned the courtesy with ease, her polished media presence shining through. She had done this routine countless times. Questions, smiles, applause. Everyone plays their part. The first few questions followed that script. Sarah praised Jennifer's new album, calling it personal and authentic. Jennifer lit up as she explained her creative process, saying the project came from a place of wanting to connect more deeply with her fans. Sunny asked about her businesses, Alyssa about her tour dates. The conversation flowed easily, Jennifer relaxed and smiling, even drawing laughs and applause from the audience. But then Joy cleared her throat, and the energy shifted. She had been unusually quiet, which in itself was telling. Jennifer, ever the seasoned performer, sensed the change immediately. "Jennifer," Joy began, her voice edged just enough to signal trouble. "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for quite some time." Jennifer tilted her head, smile intact, but with a flicker of caution in her eyes. "Of course, Joy. What would you like to know?" Joy leaned back in her chair, smirking. "I've followed your career for years, and I've noticed a pattern that I think needs to be addressed." The panelists exchanged uneasy glances. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Sunny leaned forward, bracing herself. "What kind of pattern are you referring to?" Jennifer asked smoothly, though her posture betrayed her readiness for a fight. Joy flipped through her notes dramatically. "It seems to me that throughout your career, you've had a tendency to, let's say, borrow inspiration from other artists. Your music, your dance moves, your fashion choices, even some of your business ideas. Don't you think it's time to acknowledge that maybe you're not quite as original as you want people to believe?" The room fell silent. The question landed like a grenade. Jennifer's smile faltered for just a moment before she regained composure, though anger flashed in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Joy, but I'm not sure what you're implying," she replied, voice controlled but with a sharper edge now. "Every artist draws inspiration from those who came before. That's how music evolves, how culture grows." "Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm implying," Joy shot back, her energy rising. "Let's talk about your early career. How many times have critics pointed out similarities between your songs and tracks that came out years before? How many choreographers have complained that you took their work and passed it off as your own. Whoopi tried to intervene. Joy, I think maybe we should— No, Whoopi, Joy interrupted, eyes locked on Jennifer. This conversation is long overdue. Jennifer has built an empire on the back of other people's creativity, and nobody seems willing to call her out. Jennifer's composure began to crack. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair. Joy, I have worked incredibly hard for everything I've achieved. I've collaborated with countless talented people, and I've always given credit where credit is due. Have you, though? Joy pressed, her tone growing sharper. What about the dancers who created routines you later performed as if they were your own? The songwriters who never got proper recognition for your biggest hits? The stylists and designers whose ideas you've appropriated over the years? The tension became unbearable. Sarah fidgeted with her notes, wishing she could disappear. Sunny leaned in with lawyerly focus, dissecting every word for legal implications. The confrontation had only just begun, but everyone knew they were watching television history being made. Alyssa looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, while Whoopi shot daggers at Joy, furious that what should have been a pleasant interview had turned into a full-on ambush. Joy, this is completely inappropriate, Jennifer finally snapped, her carefully maintained composure cracking as her temper broke through. You invited me here to talk about my new album, not to launch a personal attack based on industry gossip and tabloid speculation. Personal attack? Joy laughed, though there was no humor in her voice. Jennifer, this is called journalism. This is what happens when you spend decades dodging the hard questions and surrounding yourself with people too scared or too invested in your success to tell you the truth. The truth. Jennifer's voice rose, her Bronx accent sharpening with anger. The truth is you're sitting here trying to tear down a successful woman because it makes for good television. The truth is you've built your entire career on being controversial and divisive, and apparently today I'm your target. Joy's eyes lit with a kind of malicious satisfaction. She leaned forward, clearly relishing that she had pierced Jennifer's polished exterior. Oh, so now I'm the problem? Not the woman who spent 20 years building a brand on borrowed creativity, but the one finally pointing it out? Joy, that's enough, Whoopi cut in firmly, her voice carrying the authority of decades of navigating difficult live conversations. This is not what we agreed to discuss, and you know it. But Joy wasn't backing down. If anything, Whoopi's attempt to rein her in only fueled her fire. With all due respect, Whoopi, this is exactly the kind of conversation we should be having. When did this show become a place where celebrities just promote their projects without any scrutiny? When did we stop being journalists and start being cheerleaders? Jennifer's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. The audience could feel her raw emotion shifting uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the light entertainment they had expected. You want to talk about courage? Jennifer shot back, her voice trembling with fury. It takes courage to put yourself out there as an artist, to risk failure every time you release something new. It takes courage to survive in an industry that constantly tears women down, especially women of color. What you're doing right now isn't courage. It's cowardice. You're hiding behind your seat at this table to make attacks you'd never have the guts to say face-to-face in private. The word cowardice landed like a slap. Joy's expression hardened, any pretense of objectivity gone. Cowardice? She sneered. You want to see cowardice? Cowardice is building a career on other people's work, then playing the victim when someone calls you out. Cowardice is using your celebrity to avoid accountability for decades. Sarah, who had tried to stay out of the escalating clash, finally stepped in. Ladies, I think we need to take a step back. Jennifer, you're an incredibly talented performer who's brought joy to millions. Joy, I understand you have concerns, but maybe there's a more constructive way to raise them. Sarah, stay out of this, Joy snapped, turning her fury toward her colleague. This is bigger than being nice and polite. This is about integrity in the entertainment industry. Don't tell her to stay out of it, Jennifer fired back, protective instincts flaring. She's trying to be reasonable. More than I can say for you. You want to talk about integrity? Where's yours when you blindside a guest with accusations and conspiracy theories? Sonny, who had been watching with the sharp eye of a lawyer, finally intervened. Joy, I have to point out that what you're doing right now could be considered defamatory. You're making serious accusations about Jennifer's career without presenting any concrete evidence. Defamatory? Joy scoffed bitterly. Sonny, everything I'm saying is based on years of industry reports, interviews with collaborators, documented cases of questionable practices. This isn't defamation. This is overdue accountability. Then where's your documentation? Sonny pressed, her tone calm but unyielding. If you have evidence, present it. If not, acknowledge this is speculation. Jennifer seized on Sonny's support. Thank you, Sonny. This is exactly what I mean. Joy's been throwing around accusations without a shred of proof. This isn't journalism. It's character assassination. Joy's face reddened. It was clear she hadn't expected this much resistance from her co-hosts. She had assumed the others would stay quiet, maybe even back her up. Instead, she was growing more isolated at her own table. You want evidence? Joy nearly shouted, her voice echoing in the studio. Fine. 3 of your biggest hits from the early 2000s were originally recorded by other artists who never got proper credit. The choreography from your most famous music video? Created by a choreographer who later sued you for theft. And your fashion line? Launched with designs suspiciously similar to those already being sold by smaller designers. How's that for evidence? The specificity of the accusations caught Jennifer off guard. These weren't vague rumors. Joy had clearly prepared. Jennifer's eyes narrowed as the realization hit. This ambush had been planned. Those lawsuits were settled out of court, with no admission of wrongdoing, Jennifer replied, though her voice had lost some of its fire. If you'd done real research instead of cherry-picking gossip, you'd know those cases were dismissed or resolved through mutual agreements. Settled out of court, Joy repeated with a mocking laugh. Of course they were. That's what people do when they're guilty, but don't want the public to know. How much have you paid over the years to keep people quiet about your creative borrowing, Jennifer? That was when Alyssa, who had stayed quiet for most of the clash, finally spoke. Joy, I think you're crossing a line. Even if you have concerns about industry practices, this isn't the forum for an interrogation like this. Jennifer came here as our guest, and we owe her basic respect and courtesy. Respect and courtesy? Joy snapped, turning on Alyssa with the same venom she had been directing at Jennifer. Alyssa, you've been in this business long enough to know those things are earned, not automatically granted just because someone is famous. Jennifer has built her entire brand on taking credit for other people's work. And now, when someone finally calls her out, we're supposed to be polite about it? Jennifer watched the exchange with growing disgust. Joy wasn't just attacking her anymore. She was lashing out at her own colleagues, exposing a bitterness that went far beyond professional journalism. This is personal for you, isn't it? Jennifer asked, her voice calm but pointed. Because this feels like more than a conversation about creative integrity. Have I done something to offend you personally? If so, I'd rather you tell me directly than hide behind professional accusations. For a moment, Joy's mask slipped. Her face twisted with a mix of anger and something that looked almost like pain. You want to know what this is about, Jennifer? Fine. This is about watching someone like you coast through life on other people's talent while getting all the credit and the rewards. This is about watching you become a billionaire by repackaging other people's creativity and calling it your own vision. Someone like me? Jennifer's voice dropped to a dangerously quiet register. What exactly does that mean, Joy? What kind of person am I, exactly? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Even Joy seemed to realize her next words would either end this confrontation or push it past the point of no return. You know exactly what I mean, Joy said finally, her voice vibrating with years of resentment. You are everything wrong with this industry. Fake, manufactured, shameless when it comes to stealing credit. You represent everything I've spent my career fighting against." The words struck Jennifer like blows. Her face paled, then flushed with fury. She rose slowly, hands trembling with rage, and glared down at Joy. "Get up," Jennifer said, her voice low and menacing. The studio went dead silent. "Stand up and say that to my face. If you have the courage to make those accusations, then have the courage to stand when you do it." Joy hesitated, weighing her options. Jennifer loomed over her, radiating fury. The audience held its breath. Even the cameras seemed frozen, unsure whether to keep rolling. "I said stand up." Jennifer's voice grew sharper, commanding. "You've spent the last 15 minutes attacking my integrity and my entire career from the safety of that chair. If you believe it all, then stand up and face me." Reluctantly, Joy rose. Without the table between them, the difference in size and presence was stark. Her voice trembled slightly as she forced herself to sound defiant. "Fine, I'm standing." "Does this somehow make your career more legitimate? Does it change the fact that you've built your entire brand on borrowed creativity and manufactured authenticity?" "You want to talk about manufactured authenticity?" Jennifer stepped closer, her voice a deadly whisper. "Authentic people don't ambush guests on national television with personal attacks disguised as journalism. Authentic people don't hide decades of bitterness behind a mask of professional curiosity." Whoopi jumped in, moving between them with the ease of someone who had mediated countless clashes. "Ladies, this stops now. We're live, with an audience. This has gone way beyond professional discourse." "No, Whoopi," Jennifer said firmly, her eyes still locked on Joy. "Let her finish. She has more to say about my character. Let her say it. Let America see exactly who Joy Behar really is when the cameras are rolling and she thinks she has the upper hand." Joy flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. She hadn't expected Jennifer to fight back this fiercely, and the miscalculation was written across her face. But with millions watching, her pride refused to let her back down. "You want to know what kind of person I am?" Joy's voice shook now, though it was unclear if from anger or fear. "I'm the kind of person who refuses to be intimidated by celebrities who think fame makes them untouchable. The kind of person who believes truth matters more than politeness." "Truth?" Jennifer laughed bitterly. "You haven't spoken a single word of truth. Everything out of your mouth has been rumors, speculation, and your own personal issues with successful women." Sarah Haynes jumped in, her voice tight with desperation. "Jennifer, Joy, please. We can discuss these issues without it becoming personal. We're all professionals. We can do this in a way that respects everyone." "There's no conversation to be had," Jennifer shot back, never breaking eye contact with Joy. "I was invited here under false pretenses, ambushed with personal attacks that have nothing to do with my music or career. This isn't journalism, it's a hit job." Sunny Hostin, silent until now, spoke carefully, her legal instincts kicking in. "Joy, I think you need to consider the legal implications of what you're saying. You are making serious accusations about Jennifer's business practices and personal character without providing any substantive evidence." "Legal implications?" Joy snapped, turning on Sunny with renewed fury. "Are you threatening me now? Is that what this has come to? We can't even have honest conversations about celebrity culture without lawyers getting involved." "I'm not threatening anyone," Sunny replied calmly, her legal training evident in the measured tone. "I'm pointing out that there are professional and legal standards governing how we conduct interviews, especially when someone's reputation and career are on the line." Alyssa nodded in agreement, visibly disturbed by where the conversation had gone. "Joy, I have to agree with Sunny. This has stopped being an interview and turned into something else entirely. Jennifer came here to discuss her new album, and instead, she's been subjected to what feels like a character assassination." Joy now stood completely isolated. Her colleagues were either opposing her directly or trying to mediate the chaos she had unleashed. But instead of backing down, she grew more desperate, more feral, like a cornered animal lashing out. "So now you're all ganging up on me?" Joy's voice rose, shrill and cracking. "I'm the only one at this table with the courage to ask real questions. And instead of supporting journalism, you're protecting a celebrity who has built her career on lies and theft." "That's it." Jennifer's voice cut through Joy's tirade like a blade. "I am done with this. I came here as a professional courtesy, to promote my work and connect with fans. Instead, I've been ambushed by someone with personal issues that have nothing to do with me or my career." Jennifer turned and began walking toward the edge of the set. Her intention to leave was clear, but Joy wasn't finished. Not when she felt like she finally had Jennifer cornered. "That's right, run away," she called after her. "That's what you always do when someone calls you out. Run away and let your publicist clean up the mess." Jennifer stopped dead in her tracks. The studio froze with her. Shoulders rigid, she turned back, her face a mask of cold fury, more terrifying than her earlier outbursts. Step by step, she advanced toward Joy, and the panel instinctively recoiled. "You made a mistake, Joy," Jennifer said, her voice deadly quiet. "A very big mistake. You could have asked legitimate questions about my music, my career, my ventures. Instead, you made it personal. You chose to attack my integrity, my character, my right to exist in this industry. And now you're going to learn why that was a stupid decision." Joy tried to stand her ground, but fear flickered in her eyes. "Are you threatening me, Jennifer?" "Because if you are, you're proving everything I've said about your character." "I'm not threatening you," Jennifer said, moving closer. "I'm promising you. I'm promising that your little ambush is going to cost you more than you ever imagined. When I walk out of here, you'll understand just how much power a woman like me has in this industry." The tension in the studio was suffocating. Audience members shifted uncomfortably, some half rising as though ready to bolt. Camera operators glanced at their directors, unsure whether to keep filming or cut away from what had become a raw, personal confrontation. "Jennifer, Joy, this stops now." Whoopi's voice thundered across the set. "We're taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we're either going to have a professional conversation or we're ending this interview." "There's not going to be any interview when you come back," Jennifer said, eyes locked on Joy. "I'm leaving, and I'll never return to this show as long as she's sitting at this table." Joy faltered. For the first time, it looked as though she realized she had pushed too far. Her moment of triumph was crumbling into professional disaster. She made one last attempt to salvage it. "Jennifer, if you'd just acknowledge there might be some validity to my concerns." "Acknowledge?" Jennifer's voice rose in a furious shout that reverberated through the studio. "You want me to acknowledge your lies? Your jealousy? Your bitterness? You want me to validate baseless accusations with no shred of truth?" That was the breaking point. Security appeared at the edges of the set. Two large men in dark suits, ready to step in. Their presence shattered the paralysis, and suddenly producers and assistants rushed the stage, scrambling to contain the chaos. "Get me out of here!" Jennifer ordered one of the guards, her voice shaking with rage. "Get me away from this woman before I do something I'll regret." As Jennifer was escorted off, Joy hurled one last desperate barb after her. "This is exactly what I was talking about. This is how you handle criticism, by running and hiding behind your handlers." Jennifer didn't turn back. She left with her head high, walking out of one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. Whatever remained of her relationship with Joy Behar, and with The View itself, was destroyed in that instant. The cameras kept rolling as the remaining panelists sat in stunned silence, left to grapple with the wreckage of their show.